Hi everyone, welcome to topic 12B, lymphatic system. So this is the second lecture out of 3 on lymphatic system. In this part of the lymphatic system, we are going to learn about immunity or body defense. What is immunity? Immunity is defined as the body's ability to fight against infections and diseases. And there are two main defense mechanisms that the body employs. The first one is the innate defense system, which is non-specific, and the second one is adaptive or acquired defense system, which is specific. So the immunity of your body or body defense is mainly divided into the innate and acquired immunity. There are further subdivisions of this, and we are going to learn about this in the subsequent slides. Innate immunity is genetically determined, and it protects the body against a wide variety of invasions coming from outside. So the response is very fast, but it's a similar response irrespective of what kind of invasion is occurring. On the other hand, adaptive immunity is protection against specific threats. So that's why it's specific immunity. The response takes a longer time to start, but the response is different or specific for different types of invasion. So this immunity has specificity and memory. This table is comparing and contrasting the innate versus adaptive immunity. The column on the left side is innate immunity, the one on the right side is adaptive immunity, and shows the various parameters. Innate immunity, the components include your physical and chemical barriers such as skin, tears, etc., while adaptive immunity includes more specialized cells. How about activity, whether it's always present or not? For innate immunity, the activity is always present, while for adaptive immunity, this activity usually stays silent, and this becomes activated only after a certain period of time when the innate immunity fails. The third factor is response and potency. Innate immunity response is very fast, immediate response, but the potency is low. While adaptive immunity, it's a slower response. It may take about a couple of weeks to start, but it is stronger. It's a more potent or stronger response. Specificity, innate immunity is general. It can recognize like broad classes or general classes of pathogens. It cannot make distinction between finer classes. While adaptive immunity is highly specific, it recognizes particular, specific antigens and responds accordingly. Course of action, innate immunity would immediately try to destroy the invader. If it can't, then it would try to hold it, contain the infection until backup, which is adaptive immunity, takes over. Adaptive immunity is slower to respond. It might take 1 or 2 weeks. However, the entire response might also take a longer time, and it would be different for different types of invasion. Memory, there is no memory in innate immunity. In adaptive immunity, yes, memory cells would be formed and they would remember previous exposure. So in case of a subsequent encounter, the response would be faster and stronger. The innate immunity includes the body's first and second line of defense, while the adaptive immunity includes the body's third line of defense. Innate immunity or non-specific body defense includes 3 components. The first one is physical barriers such as your skin, the mucous membranes of various organs. These are basically coverings. The second component is chemical mediators, which are chemicals produced by the body, and the third one is the different types of cells or cellular protection. Physical barriers are the first line of defense, and they include the body coverings such as skin and mucous membranes, because these membranes serve as barriers, physical barriers to entry of any foreign material. The skin and the coverings also have secretions which are protective in nature. For example, the skin pH is acidic. This is because of the sweat, and this inhibits bacterial growth. The sebum produced by the sebaceous glands is also toxic to bacteria. Secretions coming out from the reproductive tract, let's say the vagina, which could be an entry point for various pathogens, is also acidic. The innermost lining of the stomach produces a very strong acid, hydrochloric acid, and enzymes that can break down protein. Saliva and tears contain special enzymes called lysozymes that have bacteria, destructive capacity. Mucus in general is responsible for trapping germs in the digestive and the respiratory tracts. Chemical mediators are the second line of defense, and they mainly include antimicrobial proteins. Okay, and there are two types of chemical mediators. The first one is interferons, the second one is complement proteins. Interferons are those proteins that protect your body from viral infection. So what happens when a virus infects a human cell? The genes in your nucleus that would synthesize interferon, they get activated and they immediately produce interferon proteins. The interferon proteins would leave the cell that has been affected or that has been attacked by the virus. They would go and they would warn the neighboring cells. So as soon as they go, the neighboring cells have receptors for neurons, and the interferons would bind to those receptors, and immediately the neighboring cells receive the message that this cell is dying because of a viral infection, and they immediately make antiviral proteins that would block the virus from reproducing in this new cell. So FDA has approved an interferon, which is the alpha interferon, that is used as an antiviral drug against hepatitis C virus. The second type of chemical mediators are the complement proteins. The complement proteins are a group of 20 proteins that keep circulating in the blood in inactive form, and when they encounter a foreign agent, a bacteria or another organism, they get activated, and this activation is in a sequential form. So this is called a cascade. Once they are all activated, they form a complex which is known as the membrane attack complex, or MAC. And this complex forms holes or pores in the membrane of the bacteria or the germ. So when the membrane has been compromised, then the ECF, or the interstitial fluid from the human cell, can enter the pathogen, and then the pathogen cell starts swelling, and finally it bursts apart, so it causes cell lysis. The complement proteins also cause opsonization. Opsonization means flagging of substances. So it destroys a substance, and then whatever debris is left, it causes a flagging so that your more specialized soldiers can come and take care of it further. This figure shows the MAC forming pores in the membrane of the invader, ultimately leading to cell lysis. The second line of defense also includes the various types of cells. So this is cellular protection, and all of these cells are the white blood cells of your body, which are the soldiers. The first responders to any kind of an emergency or injury are the macrophages, that include neutrophils and eosinophils. So these are small phagocytic cells which reach the place of an infection first, and they try to eliminate the debris and contain the reaction. The second responders, that means the white blood cells that reach the spot of an emergency second, are the macrophages, which are large phagocytic cells, and they try to do the cleanup which macrophages couldn't finish, and they also try to contain the infection until backup of more specialized soldiers come. Natural killer cells, or NK cells, are specialized type of white blood cells which can kill or take care of cancer cells and virus infected cells. They release a particular chemical which is known as perforin. Perforin causes perforations, that means it makes holes on the membrane or the wall of the invader, and thus causes the cell lysis or disintegration. Phagocytes include the macrophages, the neutrophils, the eosinophils, and any other type of cell that is eating up parts of the invader. This figure shows a purple macrophage destroying the green colored bacteria. The second line of defense also includes inflammatory response. Whenever there is an injury, the body produces inflammation. The four common symptoms of inflammation are redness, heat, that means that area is hot to touch, there is swelling, and there is pain. So these responses, they start a chain of events, and this is started by the body in response to the injury, which helps in protection and faster healing. This figure walks you through a flow chart of all the symptoms of inflammation that occur when a finger gets cut by the glass, and how all of these symptoms are leading to faster recovery and faster healing. Main functions of inflammatory response are: first, to prevent the further spreading of damaging agents; second, to get rid of or proper disposal of cell debris and pathogens; third, help in faster repair. Inflammatory response starts when initially the neutrophils, which are part of the macrophages, they would migrate, they would start, move to the area where the injury has occurred. Then they would squeeze out through the capillary walls by a process known as diapedesis to reach the site through the interstitial fluid, and finally they would gather in the precise site of the tissue injury by positive chemotaxis. Chemotaxis means movement using chemicals, as aid. So it's kind of like a dog sniffing. So these cells can smell where the damage has occurred, and that injury site is sending out chemical signals, so the cells smell it and they would reach that exact site. This figure shows inflammatory response, specifically diapedesis and positive chemotaxis. Fever is an systemic inflammatory response. This is not a localized response, but when the body in general, all over, is trying to react to an infection and is trying to protect itself. So in fever, the body temperature shoots up. What happens is the thermostat of the body, that means the hypothalamus, gets reset by chemicals called pyrogens, which are secreted by your white blood cells. So the advantage of this high temperature is that it stops the release of iron and zinc from liver and spleen, and these iron and zinc are like food to bacteria, so the body is trying to starve the bacteria. And the second one is fever. Because of the high temperature, it increases the speed of tissue repair, and bacteria cannot function at such high temperatures. So fever is an attempt by the body, system wide, to get rid of, to fight the infection. Now we are moving to adaptive immunity, which is the third line of defense, and there are some important features of this defense. First, this immunity is antigen specific, so it can differentiate between the different types of antigens and respond accordingly. Second, it has memory. It remembers previous encounters and thus can help produce a faster response the second time. Third, it's systemic. It's not restricted to any particular area. It's not localized. The third one is there are many types of attacks, so there is versatility. Last one is tolerance. This immune system, it is smart enough to ignore self antigens and would attack only the foreign antigens. So again, a recap. There are two types of immunity: innate and adaptive or acquired. Innate immunity is genetically determined, you are born with it, while adaptive immunity is something that you acquire after birth. So now we are going to focus on adaptive immunity. There are two types of adaptive immunity: active and passive. Active means when the body actively develops antibodies after exposure to antigen, while in passive immunity, the antibodies are passively transferred from another source or another person. Both active and passive immunities are further divided into two types: naturally acquired and artificially acquired. Artificially acquired is also known as induced. So we'll start with active immunity. Naturally acquired active immunity is an immunity where you are exposed naturally, that means environmentally, to pathogens. For example, you are exposed to flu viruses in the flu season, and when the body naturally develops antibodies against it, so that is naturally acquired active immunity. The second one is artificially acquired active immunity. Here, the exposure to pathogens is artificial. For example, you take a flu shot. This is a vaccine against pathogen. So what is being introduced into your body is a dead or attenuated, that means weak pathogens. So the body is getting an exposure to pathogens which was not natural, which was artificial. However, the body worked actively to develop immunity against it. So it is naturally, so it is active immunity, but it is artificially acquired. Now moving on to passive immunity. Passive immunity, as you know, is when the body is acquiring antibodies from somewhere else or someone else. So the first one is a naturally acquired passive immunity. An example would be when an infant acquires antibodies as gifts from the mother via breast milk. So this is a natural source, but the infant is not making his or her own antibodies. These are a gift from the mom. Or antibodies can be gifted by a pregnant woman to her fetus via the placenta. The second one is an artificially acquired passive immunity. Here, let's say a person gets bitten by a snake, and when the person is rushed to the ER, this person is given an immune serum such as an antivenom. And what does this antivenom contain? These are already antibodies made against that snake venom. Where are those antibodies made? Usually in horses. So this person is receiving a gift of antibodies, and these antibodies are acquired artificially by means of this antivenom. So these are the four categories of adaptive immunity. This figure summarizes the body's immunity. There is innate and acquired immunity. The acquired immunity is further divided into active or passive, which could be natural or artificial. Third line of defense, the adaptive immunity. In order to understand adaptive immunity better, we have to first understand what is an antigen. An antigen is any substance which has the ability to start an immune response inside the body. Most commonly, the antigens are proteins. Okay, they are the strongest antigens. But in addition to proteins, carbohydrates, nucleic acids, lipids, microorganisms, anything can act as an antigen. When the antigen belongs to your own body, it's a self antigen. For example, your own proteins, your own lipids, your own carbohydrates. Our soldiers, our immune cells are smart enough that they do not attack our own proteins. So they will never attack self antigens in a healthy person. But however, they know how to differentiate between self antigens and antigens coming from outside, which are considered as foreign antigens, and they would attack foreign antigens. Allergies. Allergies are caused by small molecules which are known as haptens. These are not complete antigens. They are smaller. They are called incomplete antigens. So by themselves, they are not antigenic. However, the problem is that these haptens go and they bind to our own proteins. Now they make our proteins look different. So our immune cells think of these proteins as foreign antigens, and they start attacking this protein hapten combination. So this is really harmful, because in attacking this protein hapten combination, the immune system is actually damaging its own proteins,